to our well-being and prosperity. It keeps us safe and connected. It helps us grow and innovate. It allows us to shape the future. Europe, however, imports most of the energy it needs, making it vulnerable to geopolitical conflict, leaving it exposed to market volatility, putting its infrastructure at risk. We need a sustainable energy mix to curb carbon emissions. And fusion must be part of it, because it can provide abundant, safe, and clean power, so that Europe is more autonomous and resilient. Projects like ITER and JT60SA are showing us the way. They involve thousands of companies and laboratories from all over Europe and motivate their teams to deliver breakthroughs. Are we ready to harness the potential of fusion energy? Do we have the technology, supply chain, and skills? How will Europe position itself in this race? Let's engage and exchange to deliver fusion, the energy of the future.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you here. Dear colleagues, and I think friends for some of you, I think it's a privilege for me to open this session of the Fusion for Energy Roundtable. Today, we stand together in a vibrant city, the city of Barcelona, city with a legacy of creativity and progress that will fuel our discussions and our collective ambition to shape the future. You are more than 200 participants, industry leaders, innovative SMEs, cutting-edge laboratories, high-level representatives from the European Parliament, the European Commission as well. What unites us is not just fusion, but our commitment to succeed and our appetite for initiatives. This is why F4E has heard the need to create this platform, a space where we can come together over the next 2 days to listen, to learn, to inspire one another. This is your platform to gather information, pitch innovative ideas, and ask the tough question that will shape our future. The F4E Roundtable thrives on your participation, and we have put in place several mechanisms to ensure your voice, each voice, is heard. And you will see later what we call Slido, which is a way that you can interact with the panels and ask questions and give your views. Let me insist that F4E role is not to do the job of the policymaker. We're here to deliver ITER and our projects. But I think it's important that we can be also the catalyst of this fantastic fusion community. I'd like to thank all the participants of the roundtable for the positive answer and commitment. And let me also welcome two very important contributors. As you know, the European Parliament is paying attention to fusion in general and to fusion for energy in particular. And the honourable member of the European Parliament, Mr. Christophe Grudler, who also led a delegation we had the chance to welcome on ITER a few weeks ago, will be offering his view shortly. The European Commission has been supporting F4E and ITER consistently in the recent years, and Massimo Garribba, the Deputy Director-General of DG Energy, will be saying more in a few minutes as well. Warm welcome to both of you and thank you for being here. Let me now set the scene and share a few key elements of the context. Energy is one of the key factors of our prosperity, growth and well-being. The war in Ukraine demonstrated the need for Europe to achieve energy independence. And I heard on the Day of Europe, last 9th of May, in Barcelona, a quite simple and rather blunt summary. I heard that we left, as the EU, our defense in the hand of the US. We abandoned manufacturing capability to China, and we gave part of our energy sovereignty to Russia. If they were not the words of the former Italian Prime Minister, Enrico Letta, I won't dare to share them, but I think it was really something that made me think, and I hope this is doing also something in all of you. So this was Enrico Letta on the 9th of May here in Barcelona. In April, here, in this same building and just close to F4E, and in F4E as well, we faced a massive power cut. The event reminded millions of European citizens in Spain, Portugal, Andorra, south of France, that the miracle of energy, with its real-time balance between supply and demand, relying on long-term asset and commitment, and we should not forget this. Achieving a clean energy transition and fighting climate change are two of the biggest challenges of the 21st century. And for this reason, the EU aims to reduce CO2 emissions by at least 55% by 2030 and climate neutrality by 2050. The decarbonization of our energy system is therefore essential, and fusion combines all the advantage to present a solution. But I cannot mention the landscape for longer without its most important project today, ITER. ITER is the world's largest fusion experiment. ITER is making good progress as we speak. The advancements we made in the construction and assembly are truly commendable, together with the lessons learned. Let me be very clear, ITER is the only device that tackles the main scientific and engineering challenges. And I'm happy to say that Europe has managed to keep up with the demanding schedule by making some key deliveries over the last 2 years. I can mention a lot of them. We will see pictures later. But I would like at that point to thank all our supply chain partners. Some of them are here. Thank you. You're making it a success. You're making Europe the key player it deserves to be. And I would like that you extend this thank you to all the people in your teams, from the factories, the design structure, working for this. Similarly, the GT60 project in Japan, which is a collaboration between Japan and Europe, continues to deliver valuable insight into plasma confinement and stability. Coming back to Europe, we can mention the Nones facility in Spain, who is making good progress with a strong involvement in Spain, support of Croatia, other member states, and Japan joining recently as a positive sign of progress. Of course, none of this work would be possible along with a supply chain partner, with the laboratories. And I know some of you are here, and you're represented also by the presence of Eurofusion, and we welcome you here. I would like now to say a few quick words about F4E, which I'm honored to lead since 2 years now. I proudly today here represent 450 dedicated staff of 20 nationalities. And of course, some young talents. We have young trainees who are supporting us. We're based in Barcelona, but also in Cadarache, Garking, and in Japan. And we've been developing for years, for Europe, some key expertise like project management, fusion knowledge, contract management, quality assurance, nuclear safety, and I will have to stop here. To further boost the European efforts, the F4E Governing Board endorsed in 2023 an ambitious vision and industrial policy actions. And I want to thank the chair at that moment, Maria Fori, and also the chair of the Governing Board, Carlos Alejandre, here with us today, helping us to pave the way for the future. Consistently with this program, we've launched the TDP, the Technology Development Program, and we are collectively mapping key technologies as we speak. We published a call of expression of interest to engage with startups, and I know some of you are here. We are also reviewing how we can engage better with the supply chain, in particular with the MSMEs. I want F4E to be the best of EU delivery organization for future projects and for ITER in particular. Let me conclude briefly these F4E moments by mentioning that yesterday we released the first report from the F4E Fusion Observatory, which you can download from our website, presenting data on how Europe private investment in fusion and in our supply chain current situation. Let me share now briefly my reading of the current situation. First, we all feel that we are entering in a critical phase for fusion in Europe. We see the strategies in the United States, in China, and in other regions. And I'm personally convinced that the EU must act decisively now. We are witnessing also a surge of private initiatives. And we have also initiatives at European level. We can mention the Fusion Expert Group, and I know some of you are part of it. We can also note that last Friday, the European Commission published a 4-week call for evidence to collect feedback and provide input for the EU first ever fusion strategy. This is public, this is for you, and this is for us. So please have a look. I can also note and welcome the Clean Air Task Force report published yesterday, stating that the window for action is open, but it will not remain so forever. We can also note the Go for Fusion work and many other initiatives. We need to think how our actions will ensure that fusion energy is part of the European electricity grid for tomorrow, supporting some of the utilities being present here today. I can mention Eni or EDF. Through the contribution to ITER, the EU, through F4E, has created and will continue to develop further the European fusion supply chain. It's more than 7 billion euros which we've been investing in fusion and in ITER mainly. More than 2,700 companies and 75 research institutes involved. Many other companies which have been working for F4E to manufacture systems and components for ITER have developed and have been awarded contracts also in other areas of big science. And an independent study calculated that we've created altogether more than 400 new technologies and 20 spin-offs. But now let's back to the roundtable to give you the flavor of the coming hours. We should keep in mind that this reality I was mentioning before is an asset for the future. All what we've done together is really the way to make it happen and for the future. So we have a few roundtables. The roundtable A will set the scene for the more detailed discussion to follow. The session is called Harnessing the Potential of Fusion for Energy, or Fusion Energy. It will remind us of the benefits of fusion energy. The roundtable B will deal with building tomorrow's fusion industry, as Europe needs a strong and competitive supply chain, as we all agree, and I had the opportunity to check with some of you before, during the lunch. The roundtable C is about investing in fusion technology and skills. We will be looking at the areas we would need to develop to bring fusion energy closer. And finally, the roundtable D is on promoting private sector engagement in fusion, and we will discuss how to encourage the private sector to take a more active role in fusion and support them. I would like to close my introduction by encouraging all of you again to actively participate on those discussions. Share your insight and try to think outside of the box, and I know some of you are ready for that. Our goal is to generate impactful ideas and concrete actions that will drive the fusion agenda forward. As mentioned by the European Commission in the European Parliament in January this year, Fusion for Energy is seen as a hub for project management technology, uniquely positioned to strengthen and maintain a robust industrial supply chain. I think today we act as a hub. This is your event, and I will conclude looping to Barcelona. You might have heard, and if not, I have a concern, and we need to call people in Barcelona about Antonio Gaudí. He's far from fusion, but Antonio Gaudí said something quite striking as well, that anything created by human beings is already in the great book of nature. I think it's true for fusion. We try to bring the power of sun on earth, then, as Gaudí, we have to face fantastic challenges to make this happen. But I know I can count on all of you. You can count on F4E and on me in particular. Thank you. It's time for me to welcome on stage and to thank again, because I know you have a very, very tight agenda, the Member of the Parliament, Mr. Christophe Grudler. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear Mr. Lachaise, dear Mr. Garribba, dear colleagues, dear all, first of all, let me thank you warmly for this invitation and for the opportunity to speak today about nuclear fusion, a technology that could change everything. As usual, I will talk very frankly, as Mr. Garribba will do it later, I'm sure of it. In May, I had the privilege to visit ITER alongside a delegation of MEPs after my first visit in 2022. Thank you again to ITER organization and Fusion for Energy for the warm welcome. But today, I must say, I regret that Commissioner Jorgensen is not with us today. It is representative of a broader problem, the lack of political leadership when it comes to nuclear energy in Europe. And fusion is not exempt from this. 2 weeks ago, Executive Vice President Séjourné rightly pointed out that 7 times more private capital is available in the United States than in the EU. Fusion energy illustrates this imbalance perfectly. On the 8 billion invested globally in fusion, only 2% goes to Europe, while 75% in the US. Yet, Europe has long been a global leader in fusion. Thanks to its scientific community, its skilled workforce, and its early investments in major international projects like ITER. We should remain that leader. And I believe we can, but only if we act now. Usually here in the European institution, fusion, okay, it's important. It's in maybe 100 years, we have time. No, it is now. It is now that we need to act. First of all, with a strategy to match our ambition. This is why I strongly welcome the Commission's intent to develop a European fusion strategy. I also salute the recent establishment of an expert group to begin this work. But let's be clear, this is only a first step. We must go further, faster, and together. The foundations are already in place. In 2024, Euratom launched a call for proposals to structure the private fusion ecosystem and lay the ground for a future public-private partnership. The Commission is also working on increasing access to EIC funding for fusion startups. This is encouraging. But now, we must turn this momentum into a coherent, ambitious, and unified strategy. In my view, such a strategy must promote public-private partnerships, provide a clear and stable regulatory framework distinct from nuclear fission, and at the end, create a European-level legal architecture rather than 27 fragmented ones. Let me focus on public-private partnerships. If we want fusion to move from the lab to the grid, we need more than public research funding. We need industry on board. A robust public-private partnership is the best way to combine the EU's scientific excellence with the agility and innovation capacity of private actors. Also, fusion is a long-term and high-risk endeavor. A public-private partnership allows us to share those risks while accelerating progress by aligning public interest with private incentives on creating a predictable, stable framework for private investment. Europe already has a successful model of public-private cooperation, hydrogen joint undertaking, battery alliance, for example. Fusion deserves the same level of ambition, coordination, and joint governance to reach the next stage of deployment. And I am sure all stakeholders here are ready to be part of it. My second idea is that strategy means also leadership, global leadership. Leadership is what we lack today. In the current Commission, the responsibility for fusion lies somewhere between Euratom, DG RTD, and DG NR. Between one DG dealing with many files and another whose commissioner is not the most enthusiastic support about nuclear energy. This is why we need strong political ownership. This strategy should be led from the very top by the President of the Commission herself or an Executive Vice President. Only then we can give fusion the visibility and priority it deserves. We cannot allow the current momentum to fall due to a lack of political will. Fusion is no longer science fiction. The record recently set by the French Atomic Energy Commission, CEA, proves it. We are entering the decade of demonstrators, and the EU must lead. The leadership must prepare us for what comes after ITER. Because ITER is not a end, it is a beginning. Europe needs a roadmap from research to commercialization. And here, fusion for energy can play a key role by capitalizing on its technological expertise, industrial capacity, and supply chain across Europe. Third idea, building a full fusion ecosystem. Let's be clear, a fusion strategy cannot just be a piece of legislation adding rules. It needs to support an entire ecosystem from research to commercialization, as I said before. We need to back the entire value chain, research centers and labs, universities and training programs, innovative SMEs and startups, industrial players and supply chains, and crucially, the citizens. Never forget the citizens in it. We cannot forget the importance of public acceptance. Fusion is not yet fully understood by the general public. Many people still confuse it with fission. We must invest in communication, education, and transparency. That's how we create trust. That's how we build legitimacy. Because in the end, we are not just talking about physics. We are talking about jobs, competitiveness, energy, and sovereignty. If we want Europe to be the home of tomorrow's fusion technologies, we must make sure it creates value and employment here. Fusion for energy has also a major role to play. Its industrial expertise and network across the EU make it the ideal actor to bridge the gap between science and the market. Fusion for energy must be empowered and supported in this mission, especially as we prepare for the post ITER phase. Fourth, and to finish, don't worry, ambitious funding. Behind public-private partnerships, we need to attract capital. But it will not come magically, not without public backing, not without political signals. The next MFF, as we used to say at the European level, will be decisive. So will the future of Euratom and our ability to unlock synergies between Horizon Europe and the industrial policy. Today, the fusion budget under Euratom is just over 500 million for 2021 to 2025. This is not enough, not when the US invests billions and the UK moves at full speed. We need more ambition. We need to open European funding to fusion, not just under Euratom, but under Horizon Europe and the upcoming Competitiveness Fund. Public funding gives credibility, it attracts private investors, it shows we believe in this technology. I personally fought for fusion to be included in the Net Zero Industry Act, where I was rapporteur for my political group, because I believe in it. It's very simple. We must now go further and integrate fusion into the European taxonomy for sustainable finance. We had the tools to succeed. Let's go together. And to conclude now, maybe in 3 words, Europe must lead. We are not starting from scratch. We have world-class scientists. We have successful partnerships. We have ITER, the largest fusion project on Earth, and 45% funded by the EU. But ITER is not a strategy. It's a project, an important one, but only a part of the story. We need more. We need a long-term European vision for fusion, and we need it this year. So I call all stakeholders to take part in the consultation before the 1st of July. Let's not wait for others to define the future. Let's not fall behind the US, the UK, or China. Fusion energy is not a fantasy. It's not science fiction. It's a strategic technology that could revolutionize our way of life. Let's treat it that way, with ambition, unity, and leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member of the Parliament, for those words. I will now ask you to welcome on stage the Deputy Director-General of DG ENER, but as well the Chair of the ITER Council, Dr. Massimo Garribba.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure and an honor to speak before all of you. I have to say that it's not going to be very controversial, because I quite agree. I have some differences, but I quite agree with the two previous speakers. You know, if I look at what has happened in Europe in energy field already before Russia invaded Ukraine, we had a serious price crisis, and we had a serious crisis for geopolitical reasons, and we have an acute continued situation for geopolitical reasons. And I think that we need to get out of this, and I think we are getting out of this. We have now gas prices which are more stable and so on. But we have events, like Marc recalled, we have a blackout that reminds each and every one of you that, well, it can go in a moment, and why security is fundamental. So you have today's solution. Maybe you would like to recall that the EU is probably, I was thinking this morning, you know, on the plane, is probably the continent which has more percentage production of nuclear energy than any other continent, because US is around 20%, we're around 24%, Russia is around 20%, China is coming up, but it's still not there yet, and so on, so we are still quite nuclear. But we have, in many places, a big problem of acceptability for nuclear. I mean, this is a fact. It's, you know, it's something that oscillates. Huh? I mean, now the pendulum is going in favor. Up to a few years ago, it was not so much in favor. But everybody seems to believe, somehow, that instead nuclear fusion is absolutely fantastic. And will resolve all the problems, all the future and so on. The ingredients are there, of course, but it seems to escape always a little bit what the human tries to do in order to bottle the plasma in a magnetic container and get more energy out than what you actually put in. Now, my compatriot, Mr. Draghi, you know, Marc mentioned Mr. Letta, I will mention Mr. Draghi. He quotes in his report that the IEA, the International Energy Agency, says that 35% of the greenhouse gas reduction in 2050 will come from technologies that we don't know yet and we don't have yet. I think it's quite interesting. Yeah? We need disruptive technologies in order to be able to achieve what is actually needed to achieve. It cannot be a linear process. We need to change speed. So one thing that we need is money. Huh? I mean, this is clear, but don't believe that if you just throw money at a problem, it will solve itself. This is clearly not the case. Mr. Grudler, you mentioned 500 million for the Euratom Framework Program. Marc mentioned 7 billion for ITER, but the European Commission since 2007 has spent, with the support of the budgetary authority, 10.745 billion on ITER. Yeah? It's quite some money that I think needs to you know, be there. What is the problem? You know, because you have all this money, you have all these wonderful people working for it, you have all this. Well, I personally believe, but obviously I'm not alone anymore. The problem is that indeed, you know, how can I say, the approach has been a little bit, you know, punctual, haphazard, and so on. You know, we have ITER, which is absolutely fundamental, because without it you cannot do the rest. But you don't have what you called, Mr. Grudler, an ecosystem of facilities, which actually drives to having a functioning system at the end of the day. You need the materials. You need to breed the tritium. You need to have a clear idea of what is needed to close which technological gap. And then, I mean, you need also to do that, you know, in a system where you have infinite time and infinite money, you can do whatever you want. But in a system where you have an assigned timetable and an assigned budget, the best thing that you should do is clearly not to duplicate what you already do. So each and every one of us should be doing what they are best at doing. You know, Commission gives money, the Parliament approves it, the Fusion for Energy people place contracts, the scientists run ITER once it's built, and so on and so forth. But everyone, the auditors check that the money is properly spent. So everyone has to actually do what they do best in order to have such a system. And it's not easy, eh? It's not easy because human nature is such that I always would like to do what he does. I never mind my own business, you know. And as long as you reason like that, it doesn't work. And so this is why I think that having a European fusion strategy that defines the role of the private sector, of the public sector, the geopolitical interactions that we need to have in terms of international relations, the regulatory framework, whatever you want. I mean, let's listen to the public consultation and see what else there is there that we need to define. But once you define all that, and you put all the people around the table, and you have, the institutions, the ministers, the parliament that say, this is the way to go, then off we go. We have what the French call a feuille de route. We have an agenda on which we can work. And let me recall now two more things, because again, I tend to be positive as well, but maybe I shouldn't. I mean, this ITER project has gone through 3 major crises. This is the third out of which is coming out, which started more or less with the COVID. It's driven by the COVID, it's been driven by first-of-a-kind issues, it's been driven by regulatory difficulties and so on. You can say whatever you want, but I think that it's quite important, it's also quite timely, the fact that we have changed the slope, we have changed derivative. We are going now in the good direction. For the first time in 2024, we have for both ITER and fusion for energy a performance which is around 100%. Historically, has been between 66 and 68%. It's a step change. It's true that we have also reduced the speed still now, and now we are further accelerating. So it's a big challenge to keep the pace in all these, in order to, and this is a challenge for fusion for energy, is a challenge for industry, is a challenge for the assembly in ITER, and so on. So it's something that you need to keep in mind. And this has come through a process of internal revision, quality control, and so on, which has been tedious. Is the word that I would like to use, tedious. It's not something that comes, out of a brilliant idea that you have one day and so on and so forth. You have to make order, you need to put the people to do what they need to do. You need to ask that the weldings of the sector of the vacuum vessels have to be inspected with ultrasound and X-rays, are properly done and so on, and you know how to repair, you anticipate the problem if you want to deliver a sector. And we got there. You are now, through the industry, delivering the sectors, which is very important, of course. Yeah? The same has happened in fusion for energy. I mean, the same process has happened in fusion for energy, because we have tried, and there I have to, how can I say, thank deeply all my colleagues that have worked in the governance instances of fusion for energy, because I think that we have taken a completely, unanimous approach into this. We have, I can say, supported strongly fusion for energy to reform itself, adapt more to a project-type structure, and becoming an organization that delivers. Fusion for energy is a big contract machine today. It spends lots of taxpayers' money, and it's very important that it spends it well, and it delivers on what it has to deliver. And I think that all the efforts that have been done in these are being at the moment paid back. And let me recall, because we have now this one day of discussing about the future, the strategy, the this and the that and so on, but let me recall that fusion for energy primary mission is to deliver the European contribution to ITER. And I will insist to death on this. I will not let it go, because this is the basis on which you can construct other things that can be done. And fusion for energy has successfully delivered JT60, as Marc has said. is being involved in DONES, which is led by Spain and Croatia for the materials and so on, but it's very important to stick to the basis and drive. And Mr. Grudler, Commissioner Jorgensen and Commissioner Zarajeva work together, and they are fully in favor of delivering this strategy and so on. I mean, we have to see. There are another 25 commissioners, actually 24 commissioners and a president as well, as you mentioned yourself, that will have to agree to these and so on and so forth. But those two, I can tell you, are quite committed to arriving at this point. So, I'm here and I'm staying here for this day, for these 24 hours till the end of tomorrow, because I will want to listen carefully to the discussion of the panels. I will want to collect ideas. I will want to bring them in the work that we will need to do in the Commission to prepare the strategy and so on. And I think that if we manage to come out with a strategy which is convincing, which explains, in all the different areas what needs to be done and by whom, because this is what a strategy is at the end all about, then we may have a discussion for the financing which is easier than what we would otherwise have. We have no illusions. The next discussion will start, I will tell you a date that may be wrong, but it will start the 16th of July, most likely, when the Commission should put forward the proposal for the MFF, and will last for a year and a half at least, if not more, probably more. And it will be a time in which there are competing priorities that go in all possible directions. I just mentioned defense, the increase of the defense spending everywhere. I mean, it's a big challenge that we will need to address, and that partly will have to rely also on this MFF. So there are very important competitive factors in the. So it is it's fundamental that we go back with something which is extremely solid and that delivers and that can create consensus. Thank you very much.